Today's episode is your daily news wrap-up. Okay, here we are on December the 20th in the year of our Lord 2025, and I've got some really good information for you tonight. Let me go ahead and click over here, my Murtech on Rumble channel, and let's go into this live stream, episode 1782. Click on that. Pause that. Hi, Debbie BS. Glad you could join us. Let me close out the live chat for a moment and slide down here and click the Show More button to expand the description box out. We have information from Bannons War Room, Black Conservative Perspective, Doug in Exile, and Glenn Beck. All great information, but before we get into that, I do need to give a shout out here to Ms. Flintstone. Reposted my video, my daily news wrap up from last night, and I also gave her a thank you, and she replied to that. Debbie BS reposted my episode 1781. Debbie BS and Cottonball31 commented on my episode 1781. Debbie BS also commented on my extra 566A, 566B, and 566C. So thank you very much, folks, for your support. I greatly appreciate that. Let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. There you have it. Okay, and if you don't mind, if you could give me a thumbs up on this video, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's jump into this. Bannons War Room. This is just a short one here. J6 was a mass incarceration of Patriots by the FBI and the J6 committee. Let's check into this and see what it's all about with Steve Bannon.
No. But in a situation like this, just given everything the folks at AmFest are trying to do, everything going around crazy, we've invited Tej. Tej has taken over our security for the next couple of days. So, Tej, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Your thoughts on J6?
J6, it's a mass incarceration of patriots by the FBI and the J6 committee. That I saw somebody post something the other day asking why the FBI is investigating J6 when they're the ones that perpetrated it. And then the J6 committee, they deleted all their files. They destroyed evidence. They're the ones who should be locked up, and they're the ones who need to be investigated.
That's right. Hold on. They crawled on their belly to the White House. Who does this? Cheney and all those big talkers. They crawled under the belly, Pelosi, Shifty, all to get a preemptive pardon, something that's never been given in the history of the country, and the entire staff, including the staff that perjured themselves at all these trials, to get preemptive pardons. But we know those pardons were worth an auto pin, so they're not going to be worth a lot. Tej Gill, we'll end it with you, brother.
And let's not forget, you cannot have the First Amendment without the Second Amendment.
Booyah!
Never give up your guns. Once they take our guns, we're done. The Second Amendment is the most important amendment. Without the Second Amendment, the First Amendment is gone.
All right, there you go. I told you it was a shorty, but I thought it was good information that I did want to share with you. Let me click over here and show you that this video does come from Bannons War Room. I'm following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here. Let me close out the live chat. I had to reply to Debbie BS, and I'll reply to you folks if you give me a chat. I'll reply back to you. Black Conservative Perspective. Woke judge found guilty of obstructing ICE after helping illegal immigrants escape courthouse arrest. Okay, we've heard this information on this, but I want to get BCP's perspective on this. So let's take a listen.
Do you regret calling them fascists?
Do I regret that?
Yeah.
No, that's what I think they are.
What was that?
That's what I think they are. So no, I don't regret it.
Anything else about your testimony that you want to talk about?
I don't want to talk details because I don't know if I'm under any kind of restraint as far as that goes. Constraint. So after the trial's over, sure.
What was going through your head that day?
Just how ironic it is that we have a president who's been convicted of 34 felonies trying to persecute a judge for doing what judges do. So, yeah, just the whole thing
What?
was
Commit crimes?
tragic and ironic.
Aiding and
Judge
abetting
Dugan is innocent or guilty?
criminal?
Innocent. Absolutely innocent.
Protesters who've been outside the courthouse all week have tried to make the argument this was an overzealous prosecution and that these charges should have never come. I thought it was really interesting when we heard from Brad Schimmel. Did you notice the tone? He said, she is not a bad, I don't want to be misquoted here, not a bad person. She's not a martyr for some sort of civil cause. This was a bad day, and she made basically the wrong choices. He was trying to tone down the bigger argument that a lot of people have been making and why this case has gotten a lot of national attention.
But you remember when this first came out, this did go into the Attorney General was talking about it and other individuals in the Trump
FBI director
administration,
released the picture of the arrest.
So it was at first sort of a big deal, and the government was trying to make a big deal out of it. And I think that's why the community was upset, that they thought maybe this was being pushed upon Milwaukee by Washington and that this really didn't need to happen.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we finally got him, right? We finally got one, guys. I know it's been a long time coming. There's been a lot of frustrations with the fact that, hey, in order to hold people accountable, especially Democrats, especially activist judges, okay, anybody on the left side of the aisle, it is a pain in the ass to actually hold them accountable because the system seems to be set up in order to allow them to be above the law, right? But we finally got one, okay, and that is woke Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. And I'm sure you guys remember this story. If you're not familiar with it, this was the woke judge that at the beginning of the Trump administration, the mass deportations, she decided it would be a good idea to help illegal immigrants evade ICE, right? Basically, she obstructed when ICE showed up to a courthouse in order to do their job, right, to enforce the law. She basically misled ICE and helped the illegals escape, okay? And the illegals really didn't get that far, but she clearly tried to help them leave, okay? And that is obstruction.
Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan is on trial, but today a fellow judge took the stand. Dugan is accused of trying to help a defendant in her court evade ICE agents, directing him to leave through a private door. Judge Cristela Cervera walked the jury through the April morning. Bill Miston is live from the federal courthouse with the most compelling testimony of the day. Bill.
Yeah, that's right, Kim. Cristela Cervera's courtroom is right next door to Judge Dugan's at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. And Cervera testified on the stand today that she said when Dugan learned an ICE team was outside in the public hallway to make an arrest, Dugan entered her own courtroom. Cervera said Dugan motioned her to come with her, telling the jury, quote, I thought something bad had happened, and it was embarrassing to be summoned in that way. Cervera said when she started to take off her robe, Dugan told her to leave it on. Cervera testified she wasn't sure why Dugan involved her and that she felt hesitant to be a part of it. Cervera said when talking to federal agents in the hallway, Dugan went from irritated to angry and kept saying they needed a judicial warrant. Cervera said she then escorted an agent to the chief judge's office down the hall, and when she looked back, Dugan wasn't there. Cervera testified she felt, quote, abandoned as Dugan was able to get back to her calendar after pulling Cervera out of her own court. Prosecutors say after that, Dugan directed Flores Ruiz and his attorney through a jury door leading out to the hallway. But agents later caught up to Flores Ruiz, arrested him, and eventually deported him last month. Now, Cervera testified today that one attorney later came into her courtroom that day on April 18th, pumped a fist and said, quote, go judge. Cervera said she didn't know what they were talking about. But when the chief judge later filled her in, she said she was, quote, shocked and mortified that someone might think she was involved. When the defense cross-examined Cervera, she said she never told Dugan she was uncomfortable during those circumstances. Now, when Cervera learned about Eduardo Flores Ruiz's arrest and the FBI was investigating, Cervera said on the stand today that judges shouldn't be helping defendants evade arrest. There was a total of more than 5.5 hours of testimony today for the government's case. So far, through 2 days of the trial, 11 witnesses. And this afternoon, the government told the judge that they plan on getting everybody in on Wednesday, so we could have the government rest its case tomorrow.
Yeah, so you're saying that, you heard that. So, of course, this woman has been found guilty because she obviously was guilty And this is a sigh of relief because I'm telling you guys, it has been frustrating holding these woke judges, holding Democrats accountable. It takes time, right? But I think the important part about it is that you don't give up and you continue to pursue and you enforce the law. And that is what happened to this judge. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
News with breaking news.
Good evening. We are interrupting regular programming with breaking news in the trial of Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan.
And that verdict coming in just moments ago, it is a split verdict, not guilty on one count and guilty on the other. The not guilty is for count one, which was the misdemeanor of concealing a person to prevent their arrest. The guilty verdict from this jury was on the felony count of obstructing.
I love it. I love it. Guilty on the felony. Right? Usually it works out in a way where it's like not guilty, or guilty on a misdemeanor, the minor charge, and not guilty on the felony. No.
Now, I tell you what, I'd love to have seen her face. I assume there was no cameras allowed in the courtroom, but I would have loved to have seen her face when that guilty plea came out.
No. Guilty on the felony. That means maximum punishment, which is exactly what I want. Right? This is what we want to see.
This came after these two.
Hopefully, we're going to see, but hopefully.
Charges came after this incident back in April where Dugan was accused of helping Eduardo Flores Ruiz, an undocumented immigrant, avoid ICE officials at the courthouse in April.
Now, we know that the jurors have been deliberating for a little over 6 hours. We've been catching in every single update that our reporters inside the courtroom have been giving us, and we have been covering this case from last week when we first started the trial up until now, which is now 8 months of coverage with this entire case. And we have a lot to get to, including live team coverage.
And we start with Blake Easton, who is outside the federal courthouse for us right now.
Yeah, that's right, Derek and Deanna. You said it. We've been here all day long. And honestly, it's hard to believe we have reached this now, getting a verdict in this case. They've been deliberating for about 6 hours at this point in time. And around the 6 o'clock hour, that is when we learned that the judge was buying the jury pizza. That's signaling that they could very well go the distance tonight. And obviously, with the breaking news, they have. A verdict has been reached. At this point, our crews are gathering to bring you full coverage. But before we get to all of that, I kind of want to walk you through the day of events leading up to this, because it cannot be emphasized enough. The jury has been extremely busy today. They have heard a lot and they have seen a lot. Getting here early this morning, defense took the stand and they didn't take much time at all. In fact, they only called 4 witnesses to testify: 2 Milwaukee County judges, a public state defender, and former mayor of Milwaukee, Tom Barrett. The defense rested their case without ever calling Dugan to testify. After that, it then presented time for closing arguments. Prosecution went first, saying a courtroom should be a place of neutrality. When a judge uses her position, her robe, her courtroom to evade the law, that is when it undermines the entire justice system. Then it was
Facts. It's really that simple, right? She used her authority as judge to undermine the law of the land. And that is something that a lot of these judges are trying to do. Okay, I don't know how many times I've covered these activist judges issuing these crazy decisions, right, against Trump. Always against Trump. It's always against Trump, just for it to be overturned at a higher level, right? Eventually, it goes to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court smacks it down. The liberal media boohoo whines and cries. But the reality is that the wrong decision was made at the lower court level because these judges are not following the Constitution or the law. They're following their political ideology. And this judge was one of these judges that was doing that, and she's finding out.
Turn for the defense to go, saying that they're trying to make an example out of Hannah Dugan, saying that they have a different version of the facts than the prosecution. And now, because this is the federal government's case, they were then allowed to give a rebuttal. And that was before the judge was then giving them jury instructions before they could begin that jury deliberation process. And as we mentioned, look, it's been about 6 hours, fairly quiet outside of the federal courthouse throughout the 6 hours of the jury deliberations. There's been about 3 moments in time where the jury has had several questions for the judge. Now, the first question revolved around ICE policies and whether or not how they can present a warrant, what policies they have to follow before and after that warrant is presented. Derek, I believe you mentioned that early on in our coverage, noting that's kind of what led us here. Another question kind of had to do with Eduardo Flores Ruiz and whether or not he was given his name and if that mattered in the case. And so a lot of those questions, it did bring the defense and prosecution up at one one point kind of going at odds. But those are the only moments we heard from the jury up until this moment right now, obviously with the verdict coming in. Again, we've got a whole crew of people here outside and inside the federal courthouse. The teams are gathering all of their information. There's a lot of moving pieces now, but that's where we are at this particular moment. Of course, we'll let you know if anything changes here on the ground, guys.
Go ahead.
All right, Blake, thank you so much. Blake out there reporting live for us outside of the federal courthouse. And if you're just joining us right now, let's get back to that split verdict that just came in for Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. She was found not guilty on count 1. That's that misdemeanor, concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest. She was found guilty on count 2. That is the felony, and that one is obstructing or impeding a proceeding before a department or agency of the United States.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. I believe she could face up to 5 years in prison. She needs to serve all 5 years. In fact, she needs to serve more, to be honest with you, right? I think that's kind of light. Okay, I think she needs at least a decade, at least 10 years. Okay, if not 15. Because, I mean, yeah, you got to make an example out of these people, right? You got to show these woke judges that they're not above the law. They believe that they're above the law. They believe that they have more power and authority than the president. Okay? And, an example needs to be made. And I think that this is a good example, right? That's being made right now. Okay? So for all of those, nothing ever happens, people, which, hey, I get it, right? Something happened here, okay? We're going to see what happens at sentencing. But regardless, this is good. And let's hope that judges in the future, okay, think twice before pulling this type of stunt, and that they follow the law and the Constitution, not their political ideology, and this won't happen. So, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
All right, there you go. Okay, let me click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Black Conservative Perspective. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Now, when I was previewing this video to share with you tonight, I generally let it play till the end, to the very end, so that when I start it up, hopefully I can have it set up that it starts at the very beginning, not in the middle, where I've been previewing. Sometimes I mess up, sometimes I don't. But something interesting came up about that at the next video that popped up, and I want to share a little bonus here with you. And people are saying, still hollering and moaning and groaning, the mainstream media and Democrats, the deep state, are moaning and groaning that the prices, inflation is horrible. Inflation is terrible. Let's just take a quick listen to this. Let me get this screen up for you. Here we go.
All the years I've been driving, never in my life have I ever seen $2.19 for gas. Bro, never in my life have I ever seen $2.19. Y'all better lock in, Texas, lock in. Guys, get your gas now, because I already know by tomorrow morning that joint's gonna go. I already know that joint's gonna go up, bro. It's $2.19 right now, yeah.
No cap, I thought everybody was lying about the gas prices out here. Check this. Bro, the California in me cannot comprehend this, bro. That is crazy.
It's about $2.60 a gallon.
Gas tonight. This is the shit that we're having to deal with in Texas. Look at that. You believe that shit? Yeah, remember $1.79 a gallon. Quit your bitching.
Gas prices are dropping and I'm not complaining. Look at that right there. That is crazy. You know how long it's been since I've seen a $30 type of fill up on this shit? Like, what the?
That's less than $3 a gallon.
Wait. So we got to talk about some news that liberals and Democrats don't want to hear, as they push the affordability crisis narrative that, by the way, they never pushed during the Biden administration when the country was the most unaffordable, right? We didn't hear that much about an affordability crisis. Now all of a sudden Trump gets in office, affordability crisis, right?
Okay, I like Black Conservative Perspective. I'll tell you what, he seems to know what he's talking about, and he has good information. All right, let's jump back over here. Doug in Exile, Mamdani just started a fight with Trump because this happened. Well, let's take a listen and see what happened.
Zoran Mamdani, oh man, embarrassing how his members of his staff are just outed as total and hateful anti-Semite racists. Some of that's even going on over at TPUSA right now with the big argument between Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson. This is not about impugning people's character. It's about asking, is Israel really your biggest problem in life? There's something wrong with you. We've got other incredible news about election integrity in Georgia with Raffensperger could be arrested. Welcome. Main thing is, guys, subscribe. We got the news, man. We got the chops. We're bringing only the important stuff, no conspiracies. Here's Mamdani report by Steve Turley. Zoran Mamdani hasn't even been sworn in as mayor of New York yet. And his newly named director of appointments just resigned, that's this chick, after disclosure of past anti-Semitic comments. Why is it always? Why just, is it a coincidence that his staff happens to have outrageous anti-Semitic comments? I'm not surprised, including references to money-hungry Jews. When you hear that, no, this was not Candace Owens. I know what you guys are thinking. Here's another one, rich Jewish peeps. Guys, if this is part of your vocabulary, there's something wrong with you. You know, all those rich Jewish peeps, it all came out. And then Mamdani, who just now said, look, we condemn all, even Muslims, any anti-Semitism, we condemn it. And then people go like, look at what your own cabinet has tweeted. And calling a far Rockaway train, quote, the Jew train. Jew train, holy rolling right on the Jew train. This just falls right out of these leftist mouths. If you find yourself an anti-Semite saying anti-Jew stuff, talking about the Jews are everyone's problem, Israel is America's biggest problem, then you're well on your way to being a Democrat socialist. Wait, I got even better news from John Solomon. Department of Justice sues, this is thanks to Harmeet Dillon's work, sues Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger for voting records. Remember, they came out and warned everyone. They said there's a couple of red states that are not coughing up their voting records, and Raffensperger is one of them. Sue him, arrest him. Someone should ask Raffensperger about his equipment leasing business. That would get interesting. They should prosecute him, too, for certifying the election with 315,000 votes that were not legal in Fulton County alone. Now, these votes many of them didn't have matching signatures. This has nothing to do with machines, guys. Nothing to do with vote machines. But this alone helped decide the election against Trump because of sloppy, but we never realized how sloppy the votes were. I think Arizona is probably the worst in the country, and they're not doing much to fix it either. Here's Rep. James Comer, because the Democrats are still trying the Epstein thing. Guys, Epstein is coming to be a thing for dumb people. I hate to say it, but if you still believe there's something there at Epstein and you don't have the hard evidence, then that becomes a faith. I'm not here. I already have a religion, guys. I'm a Christian. I'm not here to invent a new one and put all my faith and trust in that new statement with zero evidence, known as the Epstein files, also known as the Democrat strategy against Trump. Here's Rep. James Comer. He wrote, an overnight oversight Democrats cherry-picked Epstein estate records and searched for a single word, Trump. So it's all Democrats did on these released files. They're just looking for Trump. They have no interest in victims. They have no interest in crimes. They're not going to find any. They're just scanning for any mention of Trump, all while claiming to be seeking justice for Epstein's survivors. That's one thing we know. They don't care about. No one cares about the survivors, guys. This is politics. This was never about the survivors for Democrats. They're using them to achieve their agenda. Thank you, James Comer, for saying what I've been saying from the beginning of the Epstein files. I'll repeat it for my new people who might just now be subscribing, looking for the truth. There is not one new crime or piece of evidence that has come to light in the Epstein files since 2017. No matter how many more documents they dump, no matter how many people keep looking at what we have, there is nothing there to see. Whatever was promised to you that was documented, it's not there. I'll explain Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino and all that too. But now what people are just coming out and going is, look, Epstein, he's mostly a money launderer. They're coming around, the top tier guys are coming around to say what I've seen, and I've told you, I think most of you are smart enough to figure it out. You just look at what Epstein's doing. He doesn't appear to be a bright businessman, but he has a whole lot of money washing through his accounts, just like Jim Biden, just like Joe Biden, just like Hunter Biden. These aren't men with great business records, but they have a lot of money washing through their accounts. Like Epstein, he appeared to be like a mafia type money launderer was where he made his money. He did not make his money trafficking underage prostitutes. That's what you were told with no evidence. We need evidence. He did attack women. He did abuse women. Ghislaine Maxwell did get filed for that charge. Epstein's dead. Okay, I think he got justice. And in the afterlife, he's going to get some real justice. Here's CNN. Frustrations mount among survivors. These are the survivors of Epstein's sexual abuse about House Democrats' selective releases of Epstein files and photos. So the only victims we know of who are adults, those women that we've seen, who are legit victims, right? They were probably 15, 16, 17. They might have even been legal age, some of them, but they were abused by Epstein. Like, hey, you want to keep your job? You'll perform this, this, and this. And those women are angry at the media, basically CNN, for only releasing the Epstein photos in media that made Trump look bad. They're angry at their selective release of Epstein photos, that they would not release the ones that show Bill Clinton all chummy with underage girls. Again, that's not showing anyone in a sexual act. It's showing them in the same pictures I've seen for 10 years. 10 years. So nothing new other than this is political spam by the Democrats against Trump. And they suckered a whole lot of MAGA, probably half of MAGA with this one. And they're going to get even more because the news cycle's ramping back up. Why? Because look at this headline from The Hill. Breaking. Todd Blanche, this is of the Trump administration, says the Department of Justice won't release the full Epstein files to Congress by the Friday deadline. That's by today. They passed a bill. They have to release them. And Todd Blanche of the Trump administration says, ain't going to release them by Friday deadline. Now, I'm only going to tell you, this is what I'm going to ask you. This is a hypothetical question to my audience. Do you trust Trump's Todd Blanche and his Department of Justice, the Trump administration, more than you trust big media, Democrat media, and the Democrat Party regarding these files? That for whatever reason, Trump administration will not release them. Now I want to know, someone's a liar, someone's evil, take a side. I just want to ask you, in polite conversation, we're here clicking, we're having a root beer float together. Clink, oh good. Good recipe, Doug. I just want to ask you real quick off the top of your head, who do you trust more? Trump, MAGA, Todd Blanche, Department of Justice, or do you trust mainstream media and the Democrat Party? Because mainstream media and the Democrat Party right now are going to try to say Trump broke the law, and he probably is, in not releasing these things, or they're just saying, look, we agreed to redact and not allow victims to be re-abused. Okay. This is from the Babylon Bee, not the Bee. They call it not the Bee if it's real news and not satire. Fulton County admits it illegally certified 315,000 ballots in the 2020 election. I did a lot of work on this. I am not making a conclusive statement about this at all, other than this is true. It's a fact that 315,000 early votes from 2020 election shouldn't have been certified. There were questions about them. I don't know. That doesn't mean that they're manufactured votes. It doesn't mean that they're stolen votes. It doesn't mean that it's proof that Biden actually lost. Doesn't mean any of that. But one thing we all know, 315,000 early votes from the 2020 election were illegally certified. That's a fact. And then here's the other factoid right above it is Biden narrowly won Georgia. That's a fact. The margin of 0.23%, it was decided by 11,779 votes, was how much Biden won that state of Georgia by. That doesn't prove that of those 315,000 early votes, that they all went to Biden, but it wouldn't surprise me. There. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Rasmussen reports, Georgia affidavit of Mark Wingate, member of Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections. Quote, the board was told that Fulton County did not perform any signature verification on any absentee by mail ballot in the 2020 election, unquote. So, signature verification is kind of how you find out if a person is a real human being. Because all you got to do is have a signature and you verify, yeah, that's your signature. Every other transaction in the United States, your signature has meaning except for your votes in Georgia. Do you guys get it? Okay. So I'm not trying to convince anyone the election's stolen. Everyone knows that election in 2020, especially because of the COVID rules, they went in, opened up all the things. They said, you can vote 3 days late, sloppy, no signature verification. Okay, we'll probably count it. And then after I said, I don't know about this vote. And I'm not going on either side, guys. I'm not sitting there saying it was stolen. It was stolen. I'm saying I don't know if it was stolen, but I definitely don't know if it was legit. You know what I mean? Either one of those. And people came after me. I got my channel taken away. I lost a lot of money. So I put just in saying, I don't know that Biden is the correct president. I lost my channel and lost my income for years. It cost me, on the trajectory of what I was making then, over $1 million for saying just that. I don't know if Biden is the duly elected president. I know that they decided to make him that, but I don't know that he qualified given what we know about the election. So I said, I don't know. So everyone's going to jump down my throat. Oh, Doug, there's evidence. You will double down. Guys, I lost $1 million. I already gave at the office. So you're someone else threatening me saying you will believe it was absolutely. I don't know either way. No one can know. You can't go back and look at those votes and find out what percentage were for what signatures were verified. Now we can't know. So now everyone can say, I don't know. This is my favorite of the day with Harry Antonofer at CNN with his polls. Do you know it's Republicans that hate Democrats? This is the poll. This kind of underlines it's Democrats that hate Democrats.
What about Democrats on Democrats? Democrats net approval rating of congressional Democrats. I want you to keep in mind, they had never rated Democrats negatively until this year. And right now, what are we talking about? We're talking about a net approval rating from Democrats. This is Democrats on Democrats. Their approval rating is actually lower than the disapproval rating. And that is quite the drop from October. I think during the shutdown, there was a bit of a boost for Democrats, right? There was a rallying around the flag effect going on. But Democrats did not like how that shutdown turned out.
This is the radical Democrats, guys. The nutty Democrats that loved the shutdown and loved punishing the people. That's when the Democrat Party was happiest in October, up 22 points. And now that they don't have their radical way, not enough Jews are being abused, not enough babies are being aborted, not enough gay marriages are happening. Trump is not called Hitler enough, not enough bullets flying at Trump for them, for their liking. And so they go, oh, we don't like our own party, down 6 points. They want it more radical, guys. It shows how absolutely deformed and abnormal they are. We're going to get into more on how deformed and abnormal the Democrat Party is today with at least 3 more episodes. So I hope you subscribe, ring that bell. Of course, Our memberships are open. There's a link down there if you want to join us membership. But no pressure, guys. I'm here to put on a show. I'm here to bring you the news. Whether if you like it or not, it's coming. This is not conditional. You don't have
Okay. All right. And I have to agree with him. That's what I'm here for, to bring you the news. And, the news comes from Doug in Exile and others, and I just try to put it together for you and pass it along. That's all I'm trying to do here. This video does come from Doug in Exile. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Now I'd like to share some information with you from 1775 Coffee.
Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash.
All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler.
$170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is.
Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does.
Okay, jumping back here, I want to share something from Glenn Beck, how Trump tricked the media with his presidential address. Well, let's check this out.
Last night, the president spoke, and he started out. It was. Let me give you the overall first. I've never seen him more disciplined. I think the speech was like, I don't know. It was over by 20 minutes after, and I think he ran 6 minutes late. I've never seen. He doesn't say hello in less than 20 minutes. He stayed on script the whole time. He was extraordinarily disciplined. He was forceful with it. And he explained what has been done in the last year. And he started out saying, a year ago our country was dead. Now we're the hottest country. We're the hottest country in the world right now. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. He said, when he took over, inflation was the worst in 48 years. Caused prices to be higher than ever, making life unaffordable for millions of Americans. And he said, over the past 11 months, we brought more positive change to Washington than any administration in American history. There's never been anything like it. He talked about successfully negotiating $18 trillion of investments into the country. And he said, but the real problem for most Americans was under Biden, car prices rose 22%. In many states, he said 30% or more. Gasoline rose 30 to 50%. Hotel rates rose 37%. Airfare rose 31%. And he said, they're all coming down. They're coming down faster than anybody expected. Drugs brought in by ocean and sea are now down 94%. He said, we broke the grip of sinister woke radicals in our schools. I've restored American strength, settled 8 wars in 10 months, destroyed the Iran nuclear threat, and ended a war in Gaza, bringing for the first time in 3,000 years peace to the Middle East. Then he talked about, what's coming next. Now, here are my thoughts on this. Everybody was speculating. He's going to say we're going to war. What would give you that impression? I mean, he doesn't. That is the very last resort, and we are not out of tricks with Venezuela. I don't think we're going to war with Venezuela. I think he's making it look like we're going to war to freak Venezuela out and to get Maduro out. But I don't think we're going into war. I hope we're not. I could be wrong, but I just don't think that's his deal. But everybody was speculating yesterday. He's going to announce we're going to war. No, he's not. However, is it possible that they were leaking this? Because I saw this as the kickoff of the campaign. I saw this as, okay, this is the message for 2026 for the Republicans. And it was so disciplined and so tight. You know, when the president calls a speech at night and says he wants to address the nation, the networks are asked to carry it. Sometimes they don't have to. But if he said, look, I only need 20 minutes, I'm sure everybody, NBC and everybody, I mean, I did, rolled my eyes like, oh yeah, it'll be 20 minutes. It'll be an hour and 20 minutes. But it was tight and focused and 20 minutes. I wonder if the war thing wasn't a way to get them to cover this. If it wasn't a leak from the White House, I think he might announce war tonight, and then everybody was going to cover it. I don't know. Maybe that's me being too cynical. Can you be too cynical at this point? Here's the thing. He said a couple of things that I didn't think will serve him well. And it's only because, and I think you feel the same way. I know I'm sick of it, and I've been reporting on it since the beginning of Obama. And I hated it when Obama was doing it. And he did it for 8 years. Biden did it for 4 years. And here's the line. I inherited a mess. I inherited trouble. I'm cleaning up somebody else's mess. True. It's absolutely true. It wasn't with Biden. It kind of was with Obama at the beginning. But, when you're 7 years into it, you haven't cleaned that up yet. I mean, you got to get a bigger mop. But it's definitely true under Donald Trump. However, people have heard that now from the last 3 presidents. And they're tired of it. It has no meaning anymore, even though it's true. And I want to go back to truth here in a second. The other thing that I don't think will serve him well is the economy is doing better than ever. You're going to love it. It's great. People are not. That might be true. In my opinion, it's not. It is doing much, much better. I mean, you had, what was it, 25%, 30% inflation add to everything? You got to go into negative inflation to be able to get those prices down. They're going to be up there. And what's happening is we still are adding 2% inflation, and that's the target. I don't know why we put up with that target, but that's the target. So you'll have 2% price increases every year. Now we're at 3%. We get the numbers out today. It might go into the 2s. Are they out yet?
Yeah,
Stu?
2.7 was the number today, which is
2.7.
Yeah, it's better
That's
than
great.
it's going the right direction. They did say part of that might be because of the government shutdown, so we're not sure how long that lasts, but positive movement anyway.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. So coming down to 2.7. Remember, we were at 9. And it was compounding year after year after year. So he is bringing things down, and the price of some things like gasoline and eggs and some of the stuff you get at the grocery are way down. They're not back to where they were in 2016 or 2020 because he's just trying to stop the inflation. So what's happening, and this is what I say will serve him well, is there was this great marketing book out in the 80s called Positioning the Battlefields of Your Mind, or Battlegrounds of Your Mind. And it was a book that led to the Cola Wars. It was the understanding of the Cola Wars and how Pepsi could beat Coca-Cola. They had to change the perception. And the perception was that Coca-Cola was it. And Pepsi had to change it, and that's why they became the choice of a new generation. And for a while, Pepsi it may have even beaten Coke, but there was this real cola war back and forth the whole time. They didn't change the flavors. They didn't change anything. Pepsi was what Pepsi had always been. Coca-Cola was what Coca-Cola had always been. They needed to change the perception. Okay. Because perception, whether it's true or not, perception is reality. Whatever people perceive and feel is their reality. So it's the reality that you have to deal with. People don't feel the relief yet. They see the prices coming down, but they're still paying out the same amount of money that they were paying out under Joe Biden. It's not getting worse, except by 2.7% overall, but it's not getting better to them. You know, certain categories are, but overall, you're still struggling with your rent and everything else. And so people's perception is it's not what I expected, because what I expected was 2019. I expected to have jobs and the economy rolling and the price of housing coming down and everything else. And it's not. So what's not going to serve him well is saying your perception is wrong. He might be right. Doesn't matter. You can't tell people their perception is wrong. You have to change that perception. And the only way to really change it is to demonstrate it, or through ads. You know, back in the Cola War era, they just change slogans and do ads and everything else. But people don't buy slogans anymore. They don't buy ads anymore. They don't even trust logos anymore. So that won't work. You actually have to change people's lives to change their perception. Now, 25% last month said that they felt that their personal finances were doing better. That was last month, or the month before last. This last month, it's up to 27%. So he's moving that in the right direction. But to win, you've got to be over 40%. Easy over 40%. Have to feel like their personal finances are getting better. 27% is not enough, but it is moving in the right direction. So when the president says he's got to relate to the people who have defended him, liked him, and believe in him, he's got to say, I know you're feeling the pinch. You know, one of the things he said last night, but I don't think it's connected yet to people, and it's because it's absolutely true. Why do you think that you are spending more every month for your rent? Why? You're spending more on rent because there's too many people chasing too few houses and apartments. You cannot add 10 to 15 million people in 4 years while you're not building things. You can't add 10 million people into your country and say, oh, by the way, go get housing. Where are they going to get the housing? The housing, you're going to have a shortage, which will cause the prices to go up. So until you get rid of those 10 million people, you're not going to lower the price. And especially if the government is subsidizing them. Because, I mean, look at the NGOs. If people know the government's going to pay it, they'll keep the price up. Look what happened with NGOs. Look at what's happening at universities. Why do you think universities are so expensive? They weren't like that until the government said, we'll guarantee the loans. Once the government said, we'll guarantee the loans, prices went through the roof because everybody could get a loan. That's the problem. He's got to connect this, and I think he started last night, and he's done it a few times, but somewhere or another, it's really got to connect with the American people. You cannot solve the housing prices and not solve the immigration crisis. You have to send people back home, or you're going to have to wait 5 years as we build new apartment complexes and new buildings, and we stabilize under these 10 million new homes that were needed. Yeah. That's not popular, and nobody's going to wait that long. Somehow or another, he's got to make that point, and it's got to connect with people to give him more time to turn things around on the housing. Now, he also was really strong in saying that he was appointing, wait until you meet the guy I'm going to appoint the head of the Fed. Well, I'd like to meet that person too. I'd like to know who that is. He says he's going to do it right after the first of the year. because our Fed chair is leaving after the first of the year, I think in February. And he said he's a guy who understands low interest rates and low mortgage rates, looser money. That could be really dangerous with inflation, but we'll see. But that could be a turning point, one way or the other. A new Fed chair will be a turning point. And hopefully Trump and this new Fed chair know what they're doing, and it won't make things worse. But I don't know how you can at the Fed. I don't know. I mean, they've already made everything so bad.
Sorry. That just struck me as funny. They've already made the... Okay. Let me show you that this video does come from Glenn Beck. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. And folks, my house, of course, the mortgage payment doesn't change. Okay? But I've heard of people having a very difficult time being able to afford housing. For a studio apartment in California, it's like $3,500 a month. Give me a freaking break. Come on. $2,500 a month? How unbelievable. But, the thing is, and as Glenn Beck said, I 100% agree with him. When you bring, I've heard numbers as high as 25 million people into the country, and the government pays their housing, puts them in 5-star hotels and shit like that, they don't care how much money they spend because it's not their money. It's just laying there for them to steal. And if they run out of money, they'll just up the debt limit and borrow more money. They don't care. They'll be out of office. They're getting their skim off the top, like Ilhan Omar is now worth $30 million in the past 4 years. Amazing. Or the past 6 years. But yeah, gas prices may not be what they were in 2020. My brother-in-law posted a picture after the election. The gas was $1.89 a gallon here in Indiana. Now, it had gone up. It was at one point it was $5.25 a gallon here in Indiana, in Indianapolis. And that was just before Biden started releasing the strategic oil reserves to bring the prices down. So here again, that was oil that our tax dollars paid for, but he was releasing it. Now, I don't know if he sold it or just flooded the market with it and, gave it away at a cheap price or what the hell that was. But the same thing. It was magically done by Biden doing something that he shouldn't have done. But now here in Indiana, we're going down to Arkansas after Christmas to visit with my wife's sister, taking the kids with us, and now's a pretty good time to let you know. My live stream podcast will be a couple of hours late. Number one, here in Indiana, in Indianapolis, we're on Eastern Standard Time. In Arkansas, they're on Central Time, so that's an hour right there. And her son lives next door to her, and his kids are about the same age as our kids, so they play vigorously together and stay up later than they normally do. So I probably won't get my podcast started until about 10 o'clock when we go down to Arkansas. But that being said, in Arkansas, milk is a little bit more expensive than what it is here in Indiana. And I say expensive loosely because milk was $2.79 a gallon, $2.89 a gallon just about a year ago. Well, I got milk the other day for $2.05 a gallon. Now that is like a 30% drop in milk prices. Eggs were $3.95 a dozen when Biden was in office. Now they're about $1.49. They were about $1.19. So they're still a little bit higher than what they were, but they sure as hell have come down. Grapes were like $2.99 a pound for grapes. Now they're about $1.19. So prices are coming down on stuff like food, which is what you use every day. Now I know you have to use your apartment or your house every day, and your rent. It's like constant and was going up, but I've heard that some of that is starting to come down now that we've gotten so many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegals out of the country, because the people that own these houses or apartments, they want to rent them, even if it's less than what they were renting them for, in order to make that money. So that's my 2 cents worth. Let me know what you think. Have you noticed prices coming down? Any? Just, give me a chat or give me a comment. Now, I've got another bonus here, the absent-minded professor. This is 1961. Now, in 1961, I was like 8 years old, okay? And we lived in Lake City, Florida at the time. Mom and Dad had a motel, and a restaurant in Lake City, Florida. And on Saturdays, Dad would take my brother and me into Lake City. They had a theater, a matinee. They always had like kids shows or, scary shows like the Blob or something like that. But the absent-minded professor, I remember watching it. Now you could get into the theater for 25 cents, okay? And you could buy a bag of popcorn for 10 cents and get a Coke, soft drink, for 15 cents. So for 50 cents, we could get into the theater, get a drink and popcorn, and have a hell of a time. Dad usually gave us $1, and then would go to the five and dime, Ben Franklin's five and dime, and buy 50 cents worth of candy or toys or whatever. That's what it was like in 1961. But I've always thought back on this movie, The Absent-Minded Professor, about this scene here that I'm going to share with you. There's a lot of negative feelings about Congress these days. Let me tell you something. That ain't anything new. This was 64 years ago. Let's watch this. Just to give you a little glimpse.
Energy takes on many.
Just to give you a little glimpse of how Congress was thought about. Now, this is a Walt Disney movie here. But let's just take a little glimpse of how people thought about Congress back in 1961.
Of the city. The flying object might be friendly.
No.
Or
Nothing up here but us.
every defensive missile in the area is trained on the flying object. If it does not identify itself, it will be shot down immediately.
They wouldn't dare.
Yes, they dare. This is your last warning. Identify yourself, or we will open fire. Ready at Fort Meade. Missile batteries locked in target, sir. Repeat. Are you listening, unidentified flying object? We are waiting for your response.
I am responding. I'm Professor Brainerd.
At the count of 10, we open fire.
No, don't bother to count, General. I'm an American.
2.
See it? My credit cards.
3. 4.
Oh, wait, General.
You're not going to stand for that, are you?
5.
Yes.
6. 7. Sir, Fort Meade reports he's going behind the Capitol Dome. 8.
Sir, Congress is in session. If you fire, we might lose every senator and congressman.
9.
And they've just put a new front on the building.
10. Hold your fire.
Okay, well there you have it. So I guess the feelings for Congress hasn't changed much in the last 64 years now, has it? Okay, So there you have it. I just wanted to share that with you. That scene has popped in my mind over the last 60 years numerous times. And like I said, I just wanted to share it with you. And give you something to think about like I have been for the last 60 years. That Congress hasn't changed much lately. Okay, let's see what we got here in the live chats. And there we go. Sheeby63 thought that was humorous. So I'm glad I made somebody smile with that. All right, let me slide down here. I've copied the live chats. I'm going to copy those into a comment here. Boop. Okay, and clean that up just a little bit. Okay. All right, so I'm going to make this permanent with this video because when the live stream is over, the live chats just kind of vaporize into hyperspace. So there we go. And folks, let me remind you that these videos that I've shared with you tonight are videos that come directly from the producers. Okay, I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing out their information. I just tried to put together a nice package to give you a good variety of information of no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth, because that's what I'm trying to push here. No nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth, which is something that you're not going to get from the mainstream media and the Democrats, okay? So, and these videos that I've shared with you here are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com, where I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. Here's a video from Black Conservative Perspective. Down here's the video from Glenn Beck that I shared with you. Okay? These videos that I post, I update my site every day, sometimes multiple times a day, in order to bring you current news and information, again, that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. This is your one-stop shop for no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. Now, I'd like to share all this information with you, but unfortunately, I don't have time. That's why I do have my daily news wrap-up, where I've got 26 videos in here. I'm going to start off with some information from Russian television, RT News. The whistleblower, Ukraine's untouchables, the corruption no one wants to talk about. Then some information from Robert Gouveia. Tiny shops raked in millions in food stamp fraud. Amazing. 9 to 18 billion Medicare fraud exposed. FBI raids Somali health business. Okay, goes on and on. More information from Black Conservative Perspective. So, I've got some great information for you. Go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut, a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here at 9:30 and we'll get this rolling. But before we take off, I do want to share some information here with you from Augusta Gold.
Did you know the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about often?
Our increased longevity in America means default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs may not suffice.
If you have over $100,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Text SAFE to 35052 today.
Okay, folks, again, thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I really appreciate that. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later. Thanks again, and may God bless.